All right, we're going to continue with our media availabilities for the Crown Royal presents the Combat Wounded Coalition 400 at the Brickyard, which will air live on NBCSN on Sunday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. We are now joined by the 2015 winner of the race, Kyle Busch, from the number 18 Skittles Toyota. Kyle, it was his first win at Indy, was also the first win at Indy for Toyota. On top of that, he also won the Lilly Diabetes 250 last year in the NASCAR Xfinity Series. Kyle, talk a little bit about returning as the reigning champion of this race here at Indy.
It's pretty cool. Get a good chance to come out here and hopefully have an opportunity to defend our Brickyard 400 victory of last year, and look forward to being able to do that again in the Skittles colors and hopefully take Toyota to victory lane here for the second time. But, overall we've had a good season. We've had good speed in our race cars. Joe Gibbs Racing has been really fast, so there's a good opportunity for any of our teammates to win. It's just a matter of being able to put all the pieces together for our car and make sure the 18 is as fast as we can make it.
All right, we're going to take some questions for Kyle now. Please state your name and affiliation when you get the mic. We'll start in the middle with Jonathan and go right in front of him.
Jonathan Merriman, NASCAR.com. Kyle, last year, both of these races, Xfinity Series and Cup Series, were very hot. It's going to be even hotter this weekend. You found out the hard way, I guess, in the Xfinity Series about just how hot it can be in those cars. Are you taking any extra precautions this weekend to keep yourself cool, to keep yourself hydrated throughout the weekend?
No, nothing different than what I've been able to do in the past. Last year it was certainly very, very hot, and it was hot again at Michigan earlier this year, and I had requested that the Xfinity Series look at adding some NACAs, getting some air into the cockpit for the drivers, and they did that for us. So, we'll see how that turns out. Hopefully it's better, and at least it'll kind of start moving some air around a little bit. It's not going to be air conditioning by any means, so we'll take the best of what we can get and go from there. So the Cup race wasn't too bad on Sunday. They already had those precautions in place on the Cup cars, but felt like that the steps could be taken to better suit us for Saturday, and they've done that.
Yeah, how do you compare this track to the rest of them in the series?
This track here's one of the most challenging ones, I'd say. Certainly there's a lot of challenging ones, but Indy being as fast as it is for as flat as it is, it makes it hard for these stock cars to go around here at the speeds that we do. So, going down these straightaways, they're kind of narrow, and getting into the corners, which are kind of narrow, they're one groove corners, and being able to, really work the draft or the aerodynamics of the cars down the straightaways and being able to get yourself positioned through the corners well enough to make a pass on somebody is a huge task and is a huge ordeal. So, it's not always easy, but, some guys are certainly better at doing that than others, and this place is a tough place to pass at, so you've got to be good in all respects.
How do you compare yourself to that?
How do I compare myself? I don't know. I feel like I've kind of figured this place out over the last few years and have gotten a lot better than what I was years past. Years past, I'd struggle at finishing, 8th to 15th each time here. And the last few years, I feel like we've definitely been either the class of the field, or if not, definitely top 5 in each time.
All right, we're going to go to Claire and then Nate and Woody.
Claire Beeline, Sirius XM NASCAR Radio. We were just in here with a news conference with Jeff Gordon. He steps back into the car. Some of the things he talked about, the digital dash, he hasn't experienced. He went to the Chevy simulator. He said if it was a sim race, he could probably win it, but it's not. He talked about, I asked him about the heat. He's been out of the conditioning of being in a car for a year, and he's borrowing Jimmy Johnson's cool vest. You had been out of a car and back in. He's been out for a while. What do you think his biggest challenge will be? Even though he's a champion, we know he can step in the car and race. What are your thoughts about what the challenges would be to step in?
I just think the weekenders, the guys that have done it each and every single weekend for this year already, it takes you a few weeks to get back into the rhythm of things and into the game of things. It did for me. I missed 11 weeks last year, and it took probably about 4 or 5 weeks to kind of get back into the rhythm of things and figuring it all out and just getting focused on becoming being a race car driver again, So the heat is certainly going to be a huge thing probably for Jeff. Again, just not being conditioned for the heat and used to the heat of what it's been, and we've had a couple hot races already this year, so it feels we definitely get more experience at that and more opportunity to feel that each week that we're in it.
How much would the simulator
I don't think the simulator does anything. I've spent of the last 5 years, I've probably spent 6 hours on that thing. So it doesn't do much for me. And him being able to win a sim race, I doubt that. Joey Logano is the biggest cheater on the sim there is. So and the reason why I don't do sim stuff anymore is Joey Logano. We went and did a test at Sonoma, and he was 1 second faster than I was on the simulator at Sonoma. And then we showed up to go to the race, and I was 3/4 of a second faster than him in real life. So to me, that's a 2 3/4 difference. It means absolutely nothing. So I do not do sim.
All right, we're going to go to Nate and then to Woody and back up front.
Nate Ryan, ABC Sports. Kyle, Claire covered most of it. I have 2 questions, but Claire covered most of the first one. What are the reasonable expectations, do you think, for Jeff Gordon on Sunday? Do you think he could win?
He could surprise us all. He could win, but realistically, I feel like top 10 for sure. I feel like he could be pretty good enough to just kind of jump back in and be ready to finish top 10 right away. I feel like top 5 is probably what's expected, maybe, but getting a win, that's high expectations.
And secondly, tied into that, Hendrick has struggled, no top 10s the last 3 races. Does that surprise you, and do you see anything that appears like they're lacking right now?
That is surprising. I wouldn't have thought of that, but certainly there's been some good speed out of those cars this year. They have run well. They've had good finishes. Chase Elliott, most representative of the Hendrick group, I feel like, this year for whatever reason, but he's done a really good job. He had a crash at Kentucky after being really fast, but I don't think there's any reason to be worried yet. Those guys certainly do know how to turn it on when they need to turn it on, and that's probably going to be here in a couple weeks.
So Woody came with MRN. Kyle, every year when we go to Pocono in June and then come here, there's a handful of guys who say, well, you can pick up some things that might help you here. If you're good at Pocono, you might be good here. Now you're getting ready to go back after racing here. Do you put much stock in those comparisons between these two, and what are you looking for there?
A little bit, not too much though. This place here has the diamond grind, and then obviously Indy was old asphalt years ago. Now it's new asphalt relatively from just a few years ago being paved. So, it does have that sense of it's a 2.5 mile flat oval that, you have some of the same characteristics, but honestly, we've kind of learned a little bit over the years of what does work at Indy does not work at Pocono and vice versa. So you can't really take some of those same things back and forth.
Go ahead in front.
Kyle, Chris Hagan here, Fox Indianapolis. You've been so successful in everything you've gotten into, and here in town, people always want to talk about getting you into an Indy 500. You've even expressed interest in that. Is that something that you could just say, hey, I want to do this, and people would line up to help you, or is that something that would take a lot of planning more so than just deciding to do it like a month before?
Yeah, you definitely can't do it a month before for sure. That there's got to be planning involved, and you've got to be ahead of the curve, and probably this is about the start time in which you need to get some things start planning and definitely have all of those plans solidified probably by the end of the NASCAR season, in November. So by saying that, would I do it? Sure, I'd give it a shot and see what it's all about, but obviously you got to have funding to go run that race. It's a big race for all those teams that come here to run that race, and putting on a good effort for myself means that you want to get with a top tier team that has success here and that can run well, and you can have good stops on pit road, because it seems as though pit road's a big deal in those cars here at Indy, and just being able to learn as much as you can. So trying to get a little bit of track time in the times that we're not busy doing what we're doing is awfully hard to do. So I won't go to the simulator for those things either. I tend to try to learn all my things in real life and make sure that I'm as best prepared as I can be, and we'll see if any of that comes to fruition.
All right, we're going to go to David, Bruce, and wrap up with Jonathan.
David Scott from the Charlotte Observer. Kyle, you've been hurt and missed time and seen another guy in your car. What do you think Dale Jr. is going through emotionally right now in that situation?
Well, I certainly don't want to put any words in Dale Jr.'s mouth about what he's feeling right now, but for myself, it was hard for me to handle. You definitely don't want to see someone else driving your race car, but on the other hand, you want to help as much as you can. When David Reagan was in there, he call me each week, and we talk about different things that to expect and things to talk with Adam about, or to make sure that you were focusing on in practice to make sure you were better for the race and all that sort of stuff. And you know, he came over to my house a couple times during my recovery and whatnot, and we talked about it in person too. So you know, it's mine was a little bit more in depth, I guess, because I knew I was going to be out for a longer time. Where Junior, we don't know when his return will be, but I suspect it'll be sooner than 11 weeks. So you know, I just hope that he's doing the best that he can do. And obviously I heard a little bit of the news of what he said earlier today, so that's good. And you know, hope he's back sooner than later.
Bruce Martin with Speed Sport and Autosport. When you won here last year, how big of a relief was it for you to get a victory here?
Yeah, last year's win here was huge. It was a big relief. You know, it felt good to finally get one of the big three sort of out of the way, and being able to win, you know, the Brickyard 400 was awesome. So I'd love to be able to, now that you taste it once, you know, you want to be able to do it again. So, but there's a lot of other guys out there that certainly want to be able to do it as well. And you know, again, my teammates all are really strong. None of them have won the Brickyard 400 yet. So I'm sure that they're going to be just as hungry as I am to repeat. And you know, it's going to be fun to see. But really, right now, I'd probably look at it as there's 12, maybe 15 guys that legitimately have a good chance of winning here on Sunday.
We're going to wrap up with Jonathan before we go into a special presentation.
Jonathan, member NASCAR.com. Kyle, do you go back and look at 2014 notes since we did run the larger spoiler and the Wickers here last year, and how do you expect these cars to handle?
Yeah, I remember a little bit of that. I didn't go back to last year's notes yet. I typically do that, you know, more so for the race and seeing how the race kind of played out, but I remember a lot of it. You know, I think that last year's package will be somewhat similar to this year's package. I just don't think you'll see the variance in how loose you got behind cars. I still think you're going to have the tendencies in which the car's not going to be as good as you'd like it to be in traffic. But I feel like the separation between by yourself and in traffic will be less than last year. So it should be a little bit easier for the drivers to tackle. You know, the lower downforce package should make it, and the heat should make it where the speeds are lower than what they were last year, or relatively the same maybe. But you know, I think the greatest difference will be how much speed we'll have down the straightaway with the lower spoilers, and then how much slowing down we will have to do for the corners. So there's going to be a bit more brake usage for sure.
All right, thanks. And now we are going to bring up a couple of special guests for a presentation to Kyle. Ken Keltner and Lindsay Rickhart from Herff Jones will also be joined by Doug Bowles from Indianapolis Motor Speedway. They are going to present Kyle with the rings from his 2015 sweep here at Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
Well, Kyle, on behalf of Herff, thank you, Doug. On behalf of Herff Jones Company and the Varsity Brand Group of the United States and our local headquarters here in Indianapolis, Indiana, we're proud. Lindsay Ricard and myself, Ken Keltner, along with Doug Bowles, the president of Indianapolis Motor Speedway, to present you with not one, but two, never been done before, back-to-back home runs, the 250 followed up by the 400. And I was just telling Lindsay when I was looking, I hope the damn things fit. Here's the 250.
Okay, cool. All right. Yeah.
And the 400.
Excellent. Perfect. Very nice. Cool.
Can we go down? Let's go down front and do one photo real quick.
Okay, sure.